excited to be able to introduce to you guys the latest and greatest of the steel lineup. We have Hyperaid. A lot of you have been wondering for the last few years, why haven't we released a carbohydrate product? Good things happen in due time. So we bring forth Hyperaid, and I'm gonna go into some of the details here. We're gonna have an article written by Dr. Paul that goes into the science behind it and why it is going to be the #1 carbohydrate and electrolyte and amino source on the market today. So for those of you that are endurance trainers, cyclists, runners, you play football, it doesn't matter what you do. This is a far superior product to reach for over your average sugary filled electrolyte drink because of the Cluster Dextrin. You're gonna get a lot more absorption into the muscles, therefore a longer, more pronounced amount of energy and recovery when consuming Cluster Dextrin over a sugary based electrolyte drink. Let's start with the carbohydrate source. It's Cluster Dextrin. It is the latest and greatest when it comes to carbohydrates in athletes. So for those of you that are seeking increased endurance, strength, for those of you who try to put on size and you want to increase your pump and the amount of hydration within the muscle, glycogen storages, Cluster Dextrin is the way to go. It's not as fast as sugar, but it's not as slow as, let's say, a solid form starch. And the osmolality of this carbohydrate is very high, meaning that the amount of water and absorption in through the intestines is going to be very high, which is great news, because we've also, to increase the amount of glucose that is converted and stored as glycogen into the muscle, we have added in BCAAs and EAAs to increase that absorption. There's also glutamine and leucine in this, guys. On top of that, to take it a step further, we've incorporated the right amount of sodium, potassium, chloride as an electrolyte formula to keep your electrolytes in balance while you're training, sweating, and you know, kicking ass in the gym. For those of you that are trying to put on size, it is an imperative that you understand carbohydrates and exactly how much you need. And I always, you know, there's rules of thumb and whatnot. There's a lot of research out there on the internet. My rule of thumb was always 2 grams of carbohydrates per lean pound of body mass. So if it's hard, you have to calculate maybe how much fat you have and pull some of that off, and then just go in for 2 grams, especially if you're trying to put on some size, 2 to 3 grams. And everybody's a little bit different. Everybody responds to carbohydrates differently. Some people don't respond so well. They spike their blood sugar levels, insulin goes up, they get really watery and quickly put on fat. So those guys, you want to pay attention to how much carbs you're taking in. Don't overdo it. And go by the mirror. You know what I'm saying? Don't ignore the mirror. Their mirror is there to tell you, hey, you're taking in too much, or hey, you could afford to take in more. For those of you that are trying to put on size, this guy pre-workout, intra-workout, to increase the duration and to get a good blood sugar rise and insulin spike. Insulin is one of the most anabolic hormones known to man, is imperative during the window of opportunity pre, intra, and post-workout. So myself, coming up as a bodybuilder and putting on massive amounts of muscle, I would focus on getting in a good amount of carbohydrates, obviously in solid forms, pre-workout, multiple meals, and then I would take in my carbohydrate form and at the time amino acids and all these things to increase that anabolic environment and window of opportunity during that training session, pre-workout, and then intra-workout, usually about 30 to 45 minutes into my workout. And it would give me another push to be able to train that much harder, get that much better of a pump, or maybe even switch up to an entirely different body part and train. And then again, as soon as the workout was done, I would incorporate the carbohydrates post-workout along with the amino acids. What I've done with Adiabolic and this product, they are meant to be stacked together. So you have the most complete, most anabolic supplement regimen that you could possibly use in 2 containers. Going to the gym, pre, intra, post. It doesn't get any better than that, guys. It really doesn't. I guess if I were to add one more other product in that, it would be NO7, and it would be those 3, and probably some ADA load to help regulate how my body was using its own insulin and storing a lot of this glucose into glycogen into the muscles. So for those of you that are dieting, I would shy away from this product. It's not something, unless you're let's say an ectomorph or mesomorph, and you have your diet refined in such a way that you know how you respond to a faster acting carbohydrate, I would advise that you stay away from this if you're dieting. And for those of you that know how to do that, and you do it post-workout, great, or intra-workout, and you know exactly how much you respond to, fantastic. The amount of carbohydrates per scoop in this is 25 grams, and in 88-bolic, I think it's exactly 11 grams. And we wanted just enough carbohydrates in that 88-bolic just to render a small insulin effect, to get your body to just increase insulin just ever so slightly, to increase the rate and absorption of all the amino acids, minerals, and vitamins in that product. Therefore rendering a very positive effect on the pump, endurance, strength, etc. So for those of you that are dieting, especially if you struggle with weight gain, I would stay away from this product. For those of you that are putting on size, you're familiar with the 88-bolic, this is fantastic to couple with that. Absolutely, hands down, that is the stack, my go-to stack. 88-bolic, Hyperaid, N07, nothing better. For those of you that are using the andros and you're really taking it up a notch and try to put on some size. If you guys aren't using, 88-bolic and Hyperaid, you're just really not getting all that you can out of the andros. And I can't emphasize enough that you start with the basics. Nutrition is the basics, and if you don't have a good foundation, you can't build a beautiful, big, enormous house on a horrible foundation. So there you have it, guys. We've got 4 flavors. My favorite is the lemon, lime, and orange. It's fantastic. Kitty Cat likes the Bohemian Bliss, and we also have an unflavored, so that you can mix this with your 88-bolic or any other pre-workouts that you may be using without having to, compromise flavors and whatnot. Anyways, even if you are using other 88-bolic, flavors and other products that have flavor in them, you can't go wrong with any of these flavors. You can mix it all up. This is a fantastic product. This has to be in everybody's gym bag that takes weight training serious. Endurance athletes, whether you're playing football, tennis, long distance running, cycling, it doesn't matter. Any sport that you're involved in, Hyperaid is going to be the product for you. It is going to outperform any sugary-based electrolyte drink out on the market today, hands down. You have my word. There you guys have it. It's Hyperaid.